Okay, let's try this again. Are the banks going to be facing a liquidity crisis? Some people think that's going to happen because of the government shutdown. I'm here with my friend Eric Haynes, who's subbing in for Rob today. We got a great show planned for you. The show starts right now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, as I mentioned earlier, we're here with my friend Eric Haynes, who was on the show last week. Eric, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks so much. Great to be back. Good to be part of the conversation, sir.
Absolutely. So have you heard any about this potential bank liquidity crisis? It's kind of we're leading with this topic because I don't see anybody talking about it.
Well, it's it's one of the things that you have to pick and choose what you follow and how closely you're watching and monitoring things these days, because compared to the previous administration, the news these days is there's just so much to digest, so much to discern, and so much to figure out what's important and what's really happening. And I'm a wait and watch kind of a guy as it relates to a lot of spontaneous news topics that comes out and things that get people all up in a tizzy. And this is just one of those things where I'm going to be very judicious to just watch and see if this is really what it could potentially be.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard of bank runs before, and nothing ever really seems to come of it. I do think it does highlight just how much, government money, which really just means taxpayer money, is. There's so many industries that are dependent on that. So when you have government workers who are now out of a job because of the government shutdown, that is going to affect banks because we've got such a big government. They're no longer getting paid. Those deposits aren't hitting their accounts. And then you take SNAP, which I didn't know this, but with the SNAP benefits, I didn't realize that the food stamps were paid via debit cards, and that's going to be affiliated with some banks. So different states are going to use different banks. And those funds, even though they may hit the bank account and then immediately get spent on groceries, the bank still uses those numbers, to sometimes they do overnight trades. Sometimes there's all kinds of other things that banks do. There's now a report, and I'll just get right to it. There's now a report out there that's showing you see this Just Dario saying U.S. banks' liquidity borrowing from the Fed repo rises to $10.2 billion, all developing as expected. The closer we get to cross 35 days of U.S. shutdown, the higher the stress in the financial system. After we cross 35 days, we are in bank-run danger zone. So he's saying right now we're about to hit the 35-day window. And you see this here. This is the actual Fed repo site. I put it up like this, where you can actually track, these are banks, essentially. This is the chart showing banks going to the Fed, essentially asking for money. Now, I believe they have to pledge some sort of collateral in order to do that. But you see here, today is the 29th, and you see, $2 billion, $2.087 billion. And I'm not exactly sure what all of that means, but there's at least one person who's sounding the alarm here. Over on TikTok, she's Cheerleader for Change. I'm going to pipe this in, and let's take a listen.
And so Federal Reserve Bank repo operations, basically this is the best way to describe it, pawn shop for the banks. This is where they go when they need quick cash. So as you can see, the borrowing, emergency lending really started on October 15th when those paychecks didn't arrive on time for federal workers. And so it has just continued to get worse over the past few days. And so what you have to understand is you have to give collateral to get cash. So treasuries are like giving diamond rings, and mortgage-backed securities is like pawning your couch. So what has happened is we've used treasuries largely, and in the past 2 days we've gone to mortgage-backed securities. So yesterday, $5.4 billion in pawning their couches, and today $7.75 billion and almost nothing in treasuries. So right now our banks are so stressed for liquidity, and the only collateral they have are basically mortgage-backed securities at this point. And I can't even imagine what the rest of this week is going to look like, or next week, if we do not end this government shutdown.
I mean, I haven't heard that anywhere except on, this is actually where I found the story originally, and then I looked and I said, okay, a few other people are actually talking about this. So what happens Monday? I believe Monday is a banking holiday. So what happens Tuesday? Or is it a banking holiday? I heard that. Maybe it's not. Maybe I was watching an older video. But what happens, we go into the weekend here, and November 1st is Saturday. That's when the EBT stuff is supposed to be shut down. I don't know. This is all very concerning, or could be concerning. So just so you're aware. We told you on Monday to be careful going to the grocery store when this happens. You just never know the potential for violence or theft or looting or rioting or whatever. Be careful. And also, now with this. But it does show that, man, so many of our institutions are addicted to the big government.
Yeah, absolutely. This reminds me a lot of the language in that video reminds me of one of my favorite movies, The Big Short.
Oh yeah.
And someday, hopefully soon, when my kids are old enough, we'll watch it. We'll watch that together. Hopefully, an edited version of it a little bit. But what an amazing thing for those folks to have seen that, and maybe she's the Michael Berry in this situation of seeing a problem as it's shaping up, and at least sounding the alarm a little bit that we really need to pay attention to things like this. Unlike the market did back then.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Because I understand the chart a little better now. So on the 29th, these are banks saying, hey, this is what we're putting up for collateral. We're putting treasury bonds or mortgage-backed securities now. So today versus yesterday, which was the latest that I had when I pulled it, today it is still more mortgage-backed securities. So I'm glad you brought up The Big Short, because when I hear mortgage-backed securities,
100%.
We all think about 2008. That's at least what I think about.
Absolutely.
And so, what we're about
Steve Carell's character, Ryan Gosling's character, and all those
Yeah.
folks in that great movie that laid out and showed us what it was really like as objectively as they could, and would stop in the middle and explain, this is what this is what a tranche is, this is what this is, and explained through what really happened in 07 and 08 when our economy was really, really at the point of failing.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let's go to Mila Joy, because this kind of also dovetails on what we talked about on Monday with the food stamps. America spends $7.8 billion monthly on SNAP. If illegals were removed from SNAP, the cost would reduce 70%, according to her. If all benefits were cut off, they would leave. 45% of all Afghanis living in America receive free food from you. Is this your American dream? Because if it sure is not mine, is what she's trying to say. Where did you watch the show on Monday?
Yes.
This graph has been making the rounds, but I mean, this was pretty astounding to me. I couldn't believe this when I saw it.
The first note I made in my head after Monday's show was what you and Rob referred to as the potential need for a great reboot of this system. And or an X-ray. You said an X-ray of this system, and then potentially leading to what a lot of people have talked about is a reboot of the entire program. Now, as someone who hasn't been on SNAP benefits before personally, so I don't have that experience or that lens that I see this situation through, but I can look at data objectively and see how this is how much this program costs. This is how, and they've shown statistics on how much is spent on just junk. So I've seen those statistics. I also remember as a young kid when Bill Clinton famously, coined that food stamps were intended to be a safety net, not a way of life.
Right.
Bill Clinton said that in 1996, and those things are really, really important as you look at this program and what it has evolved into over the number of years. You showed also the graph on Monday about what it became and how it grew exponentially from a $20 billion program to, or maybe it was the number of millions of people
Yeah,
that
20
are on
million,
it, 20,
yeah.
20 billion to 20 million to 42 million in just a short period of time. So when anything's free like that, it's going to have the risk of potential abuse and misuse and fraud, and I think you see a lot of that here.
Yeah, and I mean, when I look at this graph and you really look at the numbers, this is the policies that we have that have created this reality are suicidal from a civilization. It's civilizational suicide. Like, why would you allow something like this to happen?
Yeah.
It just makes absolutely no sense.
There's a side of me, too, that looks at this situation and says, stay in your lane. Don't make a comment about that. You're blessed in that you haven't had to rely on this. But I'm also not so stupid as to not be able to see the way this pendulum swings as far as those that really do need it and those that this program blesses and takes care of, and those that absolutely use and abuse it and who are now threatening theft and terrible things in stores. I guarantee you right now, there are executives sitting around a boardroom at Walmart, executives sitting around a boardroom at Kroger corporate, and they're trying to figure out if on November 3rd, if these threats are really going to happen, and if they're going to have hundreds and hundreds of people, however many people, rush into their stores, empty out the shelves into carts, and push them right out without paying for them. I mean, those conversations are happening. And so if I just stay in my lane, I don't even take the time to look at objective information like this and discern whether or not this is really something that we need to keep going the course and just fund it. And, hey, we need some more Democrats to come on board and fund things and get this stuff out. Or if we do really need to take a deep x-ray, like you guys mentioned on Monday, and potentially consider a reboot of a program and get a lot of this waste, fraud, and abuse out of this system.
I've heard people say that also, that if this goes away, they need to just start the application process all over again.
Yeah.
And scrap this existing thing and do, and actually have real reforms.
This hit me in a video yesterday that I saw too, where a lady was explaining that she had 6 children from 4 different fathers. She's getting $4,200 a month in her SNAP benefits, and her problem was not that going away is going to be the biggest issue for her. Her problem was that in order to continue to receive that, the program was asking her to spend 15 hours a week doing community service and volunteer work to be able to continue to get her benefits. And her claim and her frustration and her irate video that she put together was that there's no way she's going to spend 15 hours a month volunteering or being a part of something for her community to provide any community service. We owe that to her. She has 6 kids. She cannot.
Wow.
She can't do that. And that was a frustrating thing for for me to see.
When I say civilizational suicide, I just mean the policy of, we have people immigrating to the country who can't take care of themselves. There is literally no way. We could have a debate about the, 25% of the black population or the combined look. You look at the American flag. The black population has an American flag next to it. The native population has an American flag. That's the white and, the white and black and I'm sure, American Latino or whatever combined. We could have a conversation if that number were too high. We could have that, but I'm not really interested in having that conversation if we've got if we're dealing with Afghans and Somalis and Iraqis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. If you can't take care of yourself, we need to be talking about taking care of American people first.
These percentages are representative of those nationalities. Well, let's see how many mouths this really is and how many people this really is. Of the 42 million folks that are receiving SNAP, let's see how many those percentages actually represent. And I think that number would potentially be very, very, because these percentages are eye-opening enough. But when you saw the amount of people that this is, I would be very interested to know what that number looks like.
And here's another thing I didn't realize about the SNAP, doing some research, is that you can actually use your SNAP EBT benefits to get DoorDash from certain stores. Mm-hmm. I did not know that. It seems to me that is insane. It's just insane from a waste of money standpoint.
Sure.
I think this specifically highlights 7-Eleven. So you can use your EBT benefits to get a DoorDash person that's going to mark everything up to go to 7-Eleven to bring you your food. So there's just so much corruption in all of this, and it's a disconnect from reality of how people who are working, how they live versus how people who are not working, or maybe you are on SNAP, but there's a huge disconnect here. 43 million Americans are on food stamps, and 80% of SNAP participants are also on Medicaid. So it really just shows you there's just so much work. We can talk about the Trump wins, by the way, everything that's going on internationally and the trade deals he's getting, and I think we should do that. Sure. But we still got a lot of work to do here domestically, I think.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You were talking, Eric Haynes, you were recently talking to some farmers.
Yeah.
About access to markets. I know in the government shutdown, farmers here in Arkansas are very concerned, right?
Sure.
Trying to keep from having to sell their farms to people like Bill Gates, which we don't want more of.
Right.
And we've got Trump, who was overseas, Cambodia, Malaysia, Japan, other places, inking some pretty significant stuff, specifically for rare earth minerals and that sort of thing, in order for us to be able to compete with the AI arms race. We're in the middle of an AI arms race. But what were some of the local farmers that you talked to, Eric, saying about their situations?
Yeah, I'm by no means a spokesman for the farming industry, but I'm blessed to have a number of good friends and acquaintances that are farmers here locally in this region, and that work really hard and that have been under an immense amount of stress over the last few years. Their biggest issue is that the markets have not been open, and that's what they're so excited about right now. It's not that just this first purchase of soybeans from China has been inked as far as President Trump coming back from this trip and having a deal. It's that they're dealing with a backlog. I talked with one farmer today who, a neighboring farmer to him, is still holding 320,000 bushels of rice that's just been on hold. And that's accrued over a good period of time. So he's now excited about just the opportunity to have open markets and be able to sell his product. And this was a universal theme in each of these conversations with farmer friends of mine when I just asked them questions about how they feel over the last couple of days, is that they've got to get through the backlog. They've got to get open markets to be able to sell their products and these commodities, and that Biden and the Biden administration held no one accountable during his administration for exports or purchase guarantees. So it hurt them that no one was being held to the standards that they had discussed or that they had worked on, and so they just held on to those commodities and held on to that product, and now they have the ability to sell. It's not just that China came to the rescue with this deal. It's that overall there are now multiple opportunities for open markets to get through that backlog of stuff that's been sitting in silos and grain bins for in a lot of cases a year or more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wild stuff. Yeah, we talked about that, I don't know, a month or so ago. It's just crazy because think about it. Rick Crawford, Congressman Crawford, sat right over there in that chair and talked about how food security is national security, and we've got to take what's going on with the farmers seriously. And but the idea that you work the field, you get the crop, but you have nowhere to sell it.
Right.
That's like, and then you go, you've still got it, you still got the product, and then you go and plant for the next year.
Right. I
just can't imagine I mean, I think running this small business here is stressful. I can't imagine that some of the stress that's got to be going through some of these guys' minds.
Their costs have just absolutely, and this was part of these conversations too with them, is that their input costs have just all skyrocketed. Their diesel cost, fuel costs, their price of fertilizer, price of seeds, price of everything has gone up exponentially. And then they take all this time to grow this amazing rice and beans and corn, and then they have to just hold on to it because they don't have the open markets to sell it like they need. So to go through all that and to pay so much more than they used to have a commodity that's sitting at the same price where it has been for so long and not open markets to really let them sell it where they need. That's been one of their biggest obstacles and biggest sources of stress.
Wow.
And I'm just my continued prayers for our farmers here in this area because they go through a lot and they do an amazing thing for this country.
Price of corn is the same that it was in the 1970s.
Isn't that something?
And yet the price of a tractor is through the roof.
Oh yeah.
So it's insane. Okay, so let's talk about the violence of the left. Specifically, it came up in a congressional hearing. Michael Knowles, okay, of the Michael Knowles Show, testified before Congress, and there was a little back and forth between him and Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey. We have that. Let me go ahead and just pull that up.
Good.
This is.
There's Spartacus right there.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, Spartacus. This is two clips back to back. We've got, first off, Cory Booker is going to grandstand here, and he's going
as
to,
always,
ignore the real issues. But specifically, this guy, Cory Booker, has endorsed Jay Jones, even though Jay Jones, the Attorney General candidate in Virginia, has said things like, "Hey, I want my political opponent's children to die, so maybe he'll think twice about his policies." Real sick stuff that the Democrats still refuse to reject the violence.
This is the American problem. I am so frustrated to sit before members of our law enforcement who have suffered in our house trying to protect us violence that I never imagined could happen. And yet we have an inability to name it and condemn it and commit ourselves to doing something about it. I will do my best to call it like it is. To hear quotes that I've even said that need to be tamped down.
I think Senator Booker made a good point just a moment ago when he said we have to self-examine, we have to be introspective. And, I can't help but think of a line today. Jay Jones has the vision, commitment, and integrity to keep families safe and make sure every Virginian gets a fair shake in the justice system. I'll be working every day to ensure Jay wins this race. That's the endorsement of Senator Booker for a man who would seek to be the Attorney General of Virginia. This is a man who, if people have not been reading the news, has called for a Republican to be murdered, for his children to be murdered, for the children to die in their mother's arms in order to persuade the Republican to change his policy views, and a man who says that he would urinate on the graves of multiple Republicans. Senator Booker, in this spirit of introspection, is standing by this endorsement. So I suppose I would invite, perhaps I should have looked, because Senator Booker has left the room, and I think I can guess why. Senator Booker, I think, should practice what he preaches, because this is the kind of moment. You cannot have a professor who wants to teach students and is going to desire to kill half of them.
That's exactly right. And if you're a Republican living in the state of Virginia, the idea of Jay Jones becoming the Attorney General after looking at his text messages and essentially you had a Democrat a Democrat delegate on the text chain that was like, "You're going too far, man." He wasn't joking.
Right.
He literally was serious
doubled
down about it after being challenged by one of his colleagues, I guess. So, what's your reaction to that, Eric?
Duct tape can't fix stupid. This is, watching the Jay Jones situation play out and watching those that should have not only immediately said these comments were abhorrent and this text messages you should have never said, but then also saying, and you need to step out of the race. Like, this disqualifies you from running. They had an opportunity there, as Democrats have before, and again, as they very often do, they chose the wrong path, which and so they've continued to look the other way and not taken down their endorsement of him. The Spanberger running for governor should have done the exact same thing. She was called out on it and doubled down in her situation by not committing to saying Jay Jones needs to step out of this race. And so it's not a talking point to say that the Democratic Party is beholden to its radical left base. And so Democrats of my parents' generation, those folks are gone. And they know that, particularly in a state like Virginia that is very, very bluish purple. I mean, to your point a minute ago, like I wish there were a lot more Republicans in Virginia. Unfortunately, the D.C. swamp very much bleeds over into Virginia. And while this doesn't necessarily affect us in Arkansas, it's just such an obvious thing that should be so easy for them to call out, and they just miss the opportunity again and again to hold themselves accountable. And they've got to have that seat. They don't have anybody to fill his spot in the ticket, so they're going to continue to just cross their fingers, I guess, and hope that he's still able to wedge in the nomination.
I can't talk about the violence of the left without talking about the moral high ground issue. Both sides think they've got the moral high ground. I mean, that's the only explanation, in my opinion. Obviously, we think we have the moral high ground when it comes to the left. They think they have the moral high ground, and so that's the only explanation where they're just saying. I mean, if you're willing to kill somebody or fantasize about their death so they would change their mind on politics, you get caught in it and you don't get called out because it's just that important. We got to have this guy in there. I mean, what does that say? All it says is that these people want to win at all costs because they think that. Even if they do think killing your political opponents is bad, they think somebody saying it is better than getting a Republican elected. So, I mean, and that's just the bare minimum. I mean, I think it's a lot darker and sicker than that. And so it really just highlights how, there's a battle going on right now that desperately needs to be won by, call it the people on the right, or call it Republicans or whatever. Because, we've got these new revelations that we're going to get to later in the show about Arctic Frost and Jack Smith and the show trials. I mean, this man was about to, if Kamala Harris had won, it was going to be full communist. I don't think people understand. I don't think that there's not enough people writing about what the revelations are of Jack Smith spying on Congress, now spying on the media, spying on people like Alex Jones, spying on Ed Martin, a J6 attorney who's now in the DOJ, who's now looking at these documents the FBI's produced and saying, my own name was on the list. Like, if Kamala was getting elected, if she would have won, I was going to jail. They were going to do what they did to the J6ers to Republican organizations, Republican PACs, all of it. That was their plan. And it's still their plan. If they get in power again, it's still their plan. And not enough people are talking about it, and they need to talk about it to create the urgency to make sure that the people in power now actually do something about it.
Yeah.
Real world consequences. And look, Comey getting indicted, Bolton getting indicted, Letitia James getting indicted, all great starts. But man, Tulsi Gabbard has referred a ton of stuff to Pam Bondi at this point, a ton of criminal referrals that are still sitting on her desk, and people are starting to get understandably anxious.
Sure. Well, and we kind of talked the last time I was a guest here about the fantasy world that these liberal progressives and liberal radicals on the left live in, and it's that side that has calls for violence. It's not wrong to say that the violence that's being talked about
that we've seen saw in Utah with Charlie Kirk. All of us saw that.
It's a sad reminder that to them and to those folks that say those things about fascism and Nazis and all that stuff, to them there's a dehumanization factor, because once you're a fascist and a Nazi, to them you're worthy of death, and that's really how they feel. And I'm not saying every liberal, and we've talked about this before too, that there are actually normal liberals like John Fetterman and Bill Maher and certain others that are at least now sounding the alarm that, hey, take it back a notch, guys. What are you all doing? This is the circus, what you're making this party and these things into. So I just think we have to be very, very careful as conservatives that we take care of each other and that we don't let this stuff spill over into what we deal with every day. It's because it can be very scary.
Yeah. And I want legal remedies.
Sure.
And we've got people in power that can provide the legal remedies, and that's what we're waiting for.
I think there's been a lot of progress. I'll say this. In the short amount of time that President Trump has been in office, the second term, even though I demand and expect more, I know what the last 4 years were and what we dealt with and how much I turned the other cheek for so long that I'm now proud of the work that's being done. And yes, I want Kash Patel to do more. Yes, I want Pam Boddy to do more and Tulsi Gabbard to do more and more and more. And I expect more of them. But I do like what I am seeing as far as their progress and so many of the things that they're. I see it every day when I go to Memphis. I see that firsthand, and the people that I talk with there in the healthcare community and others in Memphis, it's just a drastic change from the way things were just a few short weeks ago, and that's something that makes me smile.
The Memphis angle is great. I mean, when you shared that story the last time you were on about was it Border Patrol or?
Yeah, there were 3 or 4 Border Patrol guys and an ICE agent, and then their commanding officer. And the great part about that story is they were from everywhere. There was one guy that had a Uvalde, Texas hat on. He was one of the guys from Texas. There was 2 guys from California and another couple of guys from Arizona, and they were just so humble and so genuinely appreciative of the folks that I was standing around in this coffee shop saying thank you for coming to our city and trying to make a difference and doing the things that especially as it relates to child sex trafficking and the missing children that they had found. When they shared those stories with some of us and myself that was sitting there at the table with, I mean as a dad, it was really hard not to break down in front of that group. And it was just an incredible conversation. I'm glad they're there.
The follow-up is that Memphis is still getting better, or is a safer place because of what's going on in Memphis.
Did you see the dinner on downtown Main Street?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, they rolled out a whole bunch of 8-foot tables in the middle of Main Street and hosted this big dinner. They're showing good nights of people walking around in their neighborhoods, safe, children playing. There's still going to be problems. They're not going to be able to root out all evil and all issues related to Memphis, but they're doing an incredible job so far, and we should all be very, very thankful for what they're doing.
Well, speaking of the hypocrisy of Cory Booker, here's the hypocrisy of Whoopi Goldberg. Take a listen to this.
It's kind of crazy. I kind of agree with him. If you, instead of investigating a man who's no longer in office, I would like y'all to find out why the U.S. military is striking vessels without verifying who's in them.
Yeah.
I want the government shutdown to figure out what's going on, because it's getting ready to be the longest one in history. SNAP benefits are about to run out. Soybean farmers in financial crisis, and of course there is the unreleased Epstein files.
Yeah.
So you caught what she said there. Basically, stop investigating Biden over the auto pen. Don't investigate a former president. Which, again, it's it's hard for me to believe that they're that vapid, but I suppose they are, where they don't understand that. I mean, what obviously Donald Trump was investigated before he was even president the first time, and then was investigated after he left office. You know what I mean? I mean, it's insane. The auto pen allegations that came out yesterday, Chuck Grass, or I think it was one of the committees essentially saying, look, this auto pen scandal is huge.
It is.
They were selling pardons. Staffers that had access to the auto pen were selling pardons. I think it absolutely needs to be continued to investigate, but it's just, they've already done this with Comey. Like, oh, the government's been weaponized against Comey, and they do not once mention what we had to all watch with Trump.
Right. So, Whoopi, let me get this straight. You want us to sweep under the rug what we all saw going on over the last 4 years of the Biden administration. Now, we may not have known about the auto pen thing. I didn't until the new administration took over, and then a lot of this stuff came out, and we started asking questions when all of those folks were, especially Hunter and Dr. Fauci and others, were pardoned at the very, very end there,
Yes.
and we were all like, "That's a red flag." But Whoopi, you expect us to just sweep all of that under the rug because you're so concerned now about soybean farmers, and
That's a great point.
You really expect us to do that as you're looking at your notes there about these poor soybean farmers? Come on. That is bless her heart, as we say around here. She has zero credibility at all in my world and in my lens of seeing things, and The View is a sad joke. That it's good that we have these things to look at. I have to laugh every time I see clips like this because it's just like, oh my.
And I'll add one thing about Whoopi Goldberg. And I know that all actors or whatever are, for the most part, leftists and radical leftists, and they feel the need that, they're so talented, so they must be gifted in politics, and so they got to share their political views, and it's all left wing. And by the way, I could go into a great tangent on all of that. Nobody has disposable income to go watch a movie or make somebody like Whoopi Goldberg rich if we can't feed ourselves, if we don't have engineers, if we don't have a civilization, But I digress. I was a huge Star Trek: The Next Generation fan growing up in the 90s, and she had she was a character on there every now and then.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she was like Guinan or whatever her name was. And it's like when you see her just be so, I don't know, wrong, in error, dense, whatever it is, you're just like, man. I wish for the sake of my childhood that she would have just stayed, just be a character, get paid money, and keep your political opinions to yourself.
And I'm going to disagree with you on that, the radical side of her and these Hollywood elites. I don't think they're brave enough to be radical. I don't think they have the courage to really be radical. I think they're so clueless and in their own little bubble and circle of influence that they don't know. She has no idea what a soybean farmer deals with.
She was just literally
She's
reading
literally reading something. I don't
Which is what
think
an actor
they
does. They read words that other people wrote for them.
It's why it's so refreshing nowadays, and this is crazy to say, but it's why it's refreshing to hear people like Bill Maher that are speaking objectively, because they actually talk to people from the other side, have long-form conversation, which I think is great, instead of sitting up there on a panel of nitwits like she does all day, every day, of people that agree with her, and an audience that's clapping and oohing and eyeing at everything they say, which means nothing. I don't think they have the courage to be radical, or the bravery to be radical. They are just literally air horns for liberals.
So New Jersey, the governor's race in there, we're told is going to be tight. We're told it's going to be close. We'll see what happens. One of the things that did happen in 2024 was that Donald Trump kind of made New Jersey a swing state.
Yeah, sure.
He kind of did. I mean, it almost...
Was it 3 points?
Yes. It almost went to Trump.
Yeah.
Mike Crispy says that the New Jersey governor's race is neck and neck according to the polls. Tell every MAGA voter in the state to get out and vote now. There are hundreds of thousands of low-propensity Trump voters who may or may not cast a ballot. If just 85,000 of them do, we win. I think there's actually a count on how many mail-in ballots. Yeah. What date was this? This was today. somebody named Cliff Maloney says 80,000 New Jersey Republicans still have mail-in ballots sitting on their dining room table. That's the rub. That's the race. Get involved now. And this is the race is between Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat lady, and then, of course, Jack Chitterelli. Okay, thank you. Jack Chitterelli for governor, and of course he ran the last time.
This is his third time running.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
And he actually got pretty
3.
close the last time. He lost by between 10 and 20,000 total votes. Only 3 to 6%, I believe, was what he lost by last time. So just the fact that somebody in New Jersey is this close right now is scaring the Democratic Party, to the core.
The conventional wisdom in my political career, when I've been watching elections or whatever, whether it's primary or general, is if it's close, they'll steal it. If it's close, they're going to steal it. Yeah. And that's what I think is going to happen here, just because. But we'll see. The idea that mail-in ballots are still, even if there are 80 or 49 or 80,000 or something sitting on Republicans' desks right now, I'm uncomfortable with that because the mail-in ballots are ridiculous.
Yeah, I want to see this. Then this gets back to the 2020 race, and wondering how many of those mail-in ballots for Biden were actually real, and just thinking through that whole timeline, and just hoping that Election Day is a big turnout day. That weather is good. That people show up to vote. I hope that for Jack Chitterelli. I think he's a good man. I think some of the things that Mikey Sherrill has said about him personally to try to ruin his reputation and candidacy is disgusting. He's suing her for it now. Actually,
that's taking a page out of the Trump playbook.
Right. So it's good to see someone like him fighting back. She's an absolute Trump hater, spends all of her time bashing Trump in all of her stump speeches, and so I'm just excited to see what happens. I hope it doesn't invigorate a ton of energy from the Democratic Party for this, whatever happens.
Yeah, and it could be kind of a foreshadowing of what's going to happen in the midterms as well.
That's what I'm looking forward to, is to what happens with this race, with the Virginia races, and with some of the other governor and local races, to see how that ripple effect does as far as motivation and energy for the midterms.
Here's Mikey Sherrill, what she thinks about parents' rights.
I believe that parents have the right to oversee their children's education. I would push an LGBTQ education into our schools. Parents have a right to opt out of a lot of things, but this is not an area where they should be opting out, because this is an area of understanding the background of people throughout our nation. And right now we see, for example, at the Naval Academy, an erasure of history.
Steve Sweeney.
So she believes in parental rights, but not when it comes to the LGBTQRSTLNE, would you like to buy a vowel, community, enclave. She doesn't quite. So, that's just exactly what politicians do. I believe in parental rights, but I'm going to push LGBTQ. So that's another litmus test. I don't know if Chitterelli's making a big issue out of that. I don't know what his mailers are saying. I have no idea. I haven't even looked at any of his ads, right?
It's a big topic of what he says on the trail.
Is it really?
About her. As well as her not being able. She was a pilot in the military and was not able to graduate and walk across the stage with her graduating class because of some cheating scandal that she got caught up in. Her response is that she was just taking up for someone else that was caught up in it and wanted to show solidarity and honor to them. I don't know. That's not a that's not a road I'm going to go down. But I definitely hope Chitterelli wins.
Yeah, I think everybody does. That's going to be interesting to see.
I think he'll govern the state of New Jersey a lot better than I think she would, which is the bottom line. Not just because he's a Republican, because I know a lot of the things that he stands for, and I think that's better than what Mikey Sherrill does.
Yeah, as somebody who's from Arkansas, or somebody who is and not just from Arkansas, but somebody who is on the far right and everything else, I hope the best for any American state to crawl their way out of leftism or progressivism or whatever it is. And I know we've talked about Mondamvi, or how do you say his name? I see this is how disconnected I am from it. I know. Go ahead.
Zoran
Mamdani. Mamdani.
There you go.
So this is the thing, like, in kind of listening to normie talk radio and that sort of thing, like that's all the rage. That's all everybody's talking about. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of looking on from a long ways away, looking at New York City, thinking, it's New York City. I mean, they've been on this slippery slope. They've been kind of careening down this slippery slope for a very long time. And I certainly don't wish any ill will on the people there from a place of malice or anything else. I don't wish anything bad to happen to them. But I do know in this system that we have, where you get to pick your leaders, sometimes people pick leaders that end up being a judgment against the people.
Yeah, and this is a situation too with mayors of New York where the pendulum swings. I know Mayor Dinkins through Seinfeld episodes from when we were kids, because he was made fun of so badly for when the years that he was, or the time that he was mayor of New York City. I was young when Mayor Giuliani was the pendulum swing back from bad to good, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in New York. He's got a lot of support from a socialist agenda, but there's a lot of people there that want a lot of free stuff. They've been paying way too much for everything they have for way too long, and the stuff that he says and the garbage that he's putting out, it's attractive to them because them it provides less money out of their pockets when they can have free groceries and free better rent prices and free buses and all those things. Yeah. It's
what Rush Limbaugh said.
Yeah,
Rush Limbaugh said Santa Claus.
Sure,
that's the left. When you get to this, especially when you get to getting people to adopt communism, you start with the socialism, you start with the free stuff. But I just know, I mean, we all know what's going to happen. It's all going to get worse. Like, New York is going to become worse, not better, because of Mamdani. And the same thing will happen in New Jersey, right? And so I don't wish anything bad on them. I hope they make a better choice that makes their lives better. Yeah. But then you get to a point where you've got a lot of people they don't know it, but the left is literally voting for less prosperous lives, and they don't know it. They don't really know it, because eventually the bill's going to come due. So anyway, so that's New Jersey. That's New York. We had this. That's one of the latest polls, and that brings me to this. As we're kind of say, what time is it? We got a little bit of time left. Eric, I really appreciate you being on the show today. It's been great.
Great conversation, brother.
This is incredible. The Mike Benz reacting to the latest on these what's being exposed with Project Arctic Frost. The Biden FBI set up a dragnet on American media companies, including Fox News, Fox Business, Newsmax, OANN, Sinclair, the works. He says this is effing insane. Everybody from Jason Miller, Jared Kushner, Donald J. Trump, Newt Gingrich, Jared Kushner, Ronna McDaniel, Mark Meadows, any media outlet. Let me expand this so I can read the whole thing. Any media outlet or representative or agent of any media outlet, including but not limited to CBS, RFD, TV, Fox News, Fox Business News, OWN, Newsmax, or Sinclair. And this is Catherine Herridge saying Arctic Frost dragnet expands to 400-plus GOP targets. So it's not just the senators like Blackburn and others. They've now got even more information about what they were planning. And as I said earlier, they were going to put mainstream Republican organizations. They were investigating Turning Point USA. They were coming for these organizations if Kamala had won. They had created an enemies list. Again, they understand it was the time to eliminate all political opposition, that they could not allow. They can't just go on rigging elections forever. They're going to actually have to make sure that there just aren't people willing to run anymore, or willing to operate the resistance. And let's see, there's another one for Mike Benz. Alex Jones. Like they went after Alex Jones. And he was a target list. His cell phone records. They wanted the cell phone communications between Alex Jones and Mark Bankston. Okay, then we have Sean Davis. Jack Smith subpoenaed Cruz's cell phone records. Ted Cruz from AT&T. AT&T ordered by corrupt Judge James Boasberg, banning AT&T from disclosing the subpoena to Cruz. So Cruz didn't know that essentially the FBI was investigating him. Boasberg told AT&T that if Cruz was informed, Cruz would destroy evidence and imperil national security. Mike Benn saying, OMG, the same Judge Boasberg who let Ray Epps off scot-free for January 6th ordered a secret subpoena of Ted Cruz's cell phone and then banned AT&T from telling him about it. This is next level corruption. This is full communism. This is they were going to try to put Republican senators in jail en masse because intuition. So many Democrat senators right now, I'm like Adam Schiff, for example, could be in jail today. And I think Republicans could as well. I actually think the secret to win, I said this months ago, the secret to winning the midterms is actually arresting people who are on both sides if they've done anything wrong. Actually getting back to impartial, whether it's a Republican donor or not. And that brings up the very awkward Epstein list, but we don't want to go down that path today because that's not what we have planned. FBI just dropped nearly 200 pages posted by House Judiciary Committee proving the state Trump cases weren't state at all. Georgia, New York weren't state. The Biden DOJ and FBI ran it through proxy AGs to cripple Trump. Cat Turd says that this is treason. And then finally, to kind of cap all of this up, Jack Posobiec saying the FBI Arctic frost disclosures remind me of what happened when the Berlin Wall fell and people could request their surveillance files from the East German Stasi. The communists were spying on every political enemy to build cases on them. That's exactly what this is. So whether they ended up in jail or not, you've got means to control them to keep them out of jail. I mean, it's one or the other. It's either for blackmail purposes, but I actually think they were going full communist. And the reason I think that is because Ed Martin, I don't think, did I get that one? Where Ed Martin is on his own list, or Ed Martin at the DOJ. I don't think I pulled it. But the bottom line is, Alex Jones said he had a off-the-record conversation with Ed Martin at the DOJ a couple months ago. A conversation he'd immediately described to his audience.
Of course.
And he said, Ed Martin said that they have Jack Smith's emails and that he was coordinating mass show trials. They were going to arrest people and try them in absentia. And all of this is supporting that report. All of it is. Because you can't have mass trials if you don't have mass sham investigations and mass people. And so now it's the senators and over 400 GOP operatives or organizations like Turning Point USA. We were this close to losing our country. And we're still not out of the woods, but we have been granted a reprieve to try to clean this mess up.
The most important word you said a while ago was if. If Kamala Harris had won. And I think we're all blessed that she didn't. And it's why we're where we are today and why there's so much positive energy going, despite the noise coming from the left and from folks that attend the No Kings rallies and say all these outlandish and obnoxious things that have no bearing and no objectivity and no data to support them. Despite all those things that are going on in our country, Trump won. And I take a lot of, solace in that the Lord was looking out for us. And I've never, ever said that Trump's a perfect person or a perfect politician. He's certainly not. But he's the hardest working president in my lifetime. And I had the conversation with a Democratic friend of mine the other day and literally said those words, not to try to goad or to troll him, but just to say, you know what, you've got to understand, you respect the fact that this is the hardest working president we've ever seen. And he said, as much as I hate him, you're absolutely right. And he is working hard every day for our country for nothing. And his only goal is to make this country better. And I hope all of these things come out. We have great leaders on the House and Senate oversight committees. I'm super excited about those entire committees and the Republican leadership in those, and they will work to find these things out. And so getting back to the Whoopi point about sweeping all of that under the rug, it would be ridiculous and foolish for us to do that, because the only way to make sure that this doesn't happen again is to expose what happened then and to bring the receipts and say, this was Jack Smith, this was absolutely insane what you thought you could get away with because you assumed that Trump could never win again. And now you're exposed, and now we know. And this is just a great time in America.
Yeah, I appreciate your optimism. I really do, because you can easily blackpill by saying it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like that's a reasonable approach, because I think there is a healthy distrust of government, even those on our side. It's so bad, or it has been so bad for so long. So everybody's just looking to be disappointed, and I don't think that's an unreasonable position. No. And I don't discount it. I have for people to be that way, but at the same time, when you look at from the 30,000-foot view of what we have been spared for the time we have.
Yeah.
There does need to be urgency,
yeah,
but it does give you hope that, man, it could be a lot worse than it is right now.
8 years ago, somebody in this community that I knew and was talking with at that time called me a bloodthirsty Trumpkin because I was supporting President Trump. And in his mind, by the time President Trump started his first administration, at this point in it, through this first year, we would have already be in the middle of World War III. Our economy would have completely collapsed, and we would all be, killing each other or something like that. And so getting back to the optimism and what I see going on every day, whether I agree with everything that's going on with every Republican issue or not, or whether it affects me or not, there's a lot of positive energy and a lot of exciting things going on that we have a lot to be thankful for.
Wow.
And I'm pumped every day.
It's always good to be thankful. Folks, that's all the time that we have for this edition. I want to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds. Make sure to call Cody Powers there, and Sherrod Chiropractic. And we really appreciate you listening. We can't do it without you. We will see you tomorrow. God bless everybody out there.